Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Man vs. Mood podcast number 8. I am your host, Will, joined today by the whole crew. To my left, we've got
Gary. Hello, everybody.
And we got Jen.
And
This is Mike.
Mike always loves to mess with me.
This is
I just
Mike.
like to mess with him.
This is a big show for us, something that we've been talking about for quite some time because it's going to be about Enneagrams. And if you are not familiar with what the Enneagram is, we are going to make sure you're very familiar by the time this is all done. It is a personality type, and the reason that we've been having so much fun with it is because, well, Mike has decided that he's going to keep his number secret until the big reveal on this episode.
All of the eye rolls. I'm like,
yeah.
I know.
fine.
It has been driving Jen bananas, and
In the group text, he's going.
I said, well, maybe I'm a 5. No, wait. I thought it was a 2. No,
And
it
I
was a 3.
was like,
Yeah, it was a 3.
Mike's just trolling the shit out of all of us. But
So fun.
and we all have a good time with it, of course. But we're recording this the night before Thanksgiving, so we're all kind of wound
Turkey
up.
Day.
Happy Turkey Day, everyone!
Yeah.
Although I'll probably drop this next week. Just
So hope it was good.
Yeah, we hope
All right.
everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and Mike is going to enjoy some wonderful Swedish
Swedish meatballs.
Swedish meat.
Yeah, happy Swedish meatball day.
Exactly. But before we get into all of that, as always, we want to talk about what we're thankful and blessed for. And I know that I have something that I'm pretty excited about, but I'll start on my left. Gary?
So let's see. So I'm thankful that I didn't have to go to the DMV. That's a plus.
Yeah. I'm not kidding you. I listened back to that episode. I looped that.
Yeah.
I was sitting there listening to you tell the story and me going back and visualizing your face again. And and my son was, because I have headphones on while I'm doing it. My son's like, what the hell are you laughing at? I'm like, you just
Gotta be there.
You get it. Yeah. It was absolutely hilarious. But anyways, sorry.
So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful tomorrow is going to be Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday.
Shout out Thanksgiving. Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
I don't know about your favorite foods. If that's your favorite holiday, it's got to be about the food, yeah?
Definitely.
Oh, we got to say what each other's.
Yes, we will. Let's get through this, and then
Yeah,
we'll do that.
All right.
Save your favorite food until right after that.
I jumped the gun. Sorry.
You're good.
It's all
Go
good.
ahead.
Jen, what are you thankful for or blessed?
I'm thankful for some of the basics, honestly. Like last week, we had a little bit of a scare with my daughter's health, and she's fine. She's good. But it was just like a swift reminder of how nice it is that everyone is healthy and we can enjoy this holiday. And honestly, just the basics. I'm just grateful for a healthy family right now. So
That's an incredibly thankful thing
Yeah.
for anyone. If you've ever gone through something with your family and how traumatic it can be, it'll change your whole world in a day.
Yep.
It really can.
yep, matter of minutes.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mike, what do you got for us?
I'm thankful for my grandma. She's 90. She's gone through so many cancers. She's not doing very well right now. She's at a MvM, which is in Vancouver. It's like a memory kind of rehabilitation thing. But I get to go see her tomorrow, so I'm excited to go spend some time with her. And the crappy thing is that only one of us can go see it at a time per day. It's
thanks
not
a lot,
even
per
per
day.
hour. It's per day.
Oh, jeez.
So I told my mom, I was like, I want to go see grandma on Thanksgiving because everybody else is busy. So I'm like, she likes milkshakes. I'll just bring a milkshake to her.
You going to go down to the yard and get her one of the big
No.
fancy ones?
The yard.
is not
I do
very
not like
good.
it. I think
I
it's
didn't-
disgusting.
It was
And
way
I'm not
too.
a big fan of theirs, and it's too expensive. So
I was
Yeah.
like, what is this?
go visit the yard, everybody.
I was like, I don't know what this is.
It's this abomination of a milkshake that's $19, and I'm not kidding.
For a mason jar.
For
What?
you get to keep the mason jar. So have you
I
heard
got
of
the
it?
trophy. It's in the.
So is it like a
Oh my
gold
gosh.
milkshake or something like
No.
that?
It's big and
Mostly
it has
it's
a lot of whipped cream, but other than that,
majority whipped cream.
yeah, that you're paying $19 for. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks cool. I'll show you a picture because we went down there one time just to kind of say we did it.
Yeah.
But for the amount, and I couldn't even eat it because I'm GF or gluten free, so they only have one thing, and it didn't sound good to me. So, But it was anywhere from, I think, $13 to $19.
Oh, that makes my head hurt.
Yeah.
What?
Don't go there. It's not worth it.
Oh.
Speaking of insulin levels, it will certainly be up after you go there. But my son got one of the big ones with all the fixings and whatnot, and it was like 50% whipped cream. I'm like, I'd go to Burgerville and get a Superior, and that's not even that good of a milkshake.
That's like too much ice and coffee.
Yeah.
That just
right?
makes me mangry. I'm like,
Did you say mangry?
Mangry. It makes me mangry.
So we've got Schmiedish meatballs
And mangry.
I like mangry
Do
though.
not go to the Burgerville on 92nd and Powell. They've been closed down for a little bit.
Really?
They had an issue finding...
Well, you can't go there then.
Yeah. But
Don't go again when it opens.
they had an issue finding some fecal matter in
Oh.
their food.
Oh,
In their food?
Yeah.
How
Oh,
the hell
for
you
the
gonna find
love
shit in
of
your
all
food?
that is good. Oh,
That's
yeah.
not good.
no.
When it does open, you might not want to go there.
Quick aside.
or you might want to go there. I don't know.
Nah, I'm not into that. Burgerville has really gone downhill though in the last couple of
massively.
years, and their prices have not gone down with it.
No.
They've gone uphill actually.
Yeah, quite a bit. So, anyway, the thing that I am thankful for is Thanksgiving as well, because it is my favorite holiday. But that's because I get to cook for not as many people as usual, but it really is an opportunity for me to show my love to everyone through food, which is really one of my biggest things. So,
That's awesome.
wow.
I just want to talk about the Enneagram, and I'm just gonna wait. Okay.
But yeah, no. So I've got 2 turkeys. We're brining one. I'll smoke one. Got the everything, and we'll lead into our favorite Thanksgiving thing real quick. But it really is one of my aunts, one of my uncles, and then my uncle and his girlfriend will be over for dessert later in the day. But that really is
That's fun.
something I'm incredibly thankful for. So
Awesome.
quickly, what is your favorite food on Thanksgiving, or just favorite part of Thanksgiving? But whatever, if it's a food, let's hear it.
Favorite food has to be macaroni and cheese.
Really?
Ooh, okay.
Listen, this is a judgment-free zone, okay?
Yeah.
Of
course.
You're talking like Kraft macaroni and cheese.
And I am not talking about Kraft with a box or anything
Like legit mac and
I'm
cheese.
talking about like elbow noodles, 3 types of cheese.
Yeah.
And,
Do you bake it?
Oh yeah, make it nice and thick with the good.
So you're
crispy
bringing
cheese.
some next time, is what you're saying?
I mean,
I think we should have a
Okay.
mac and cheese off because
We talk entirely too much about food to not make this a thing. Like,
Well, I challenge you to a duel, sir.
yes,
ooh.
dual accepted, because I've got a mean mac and cheese recipe.
I already got mine. It's in the fridge.
I was like, should we all bring mac and cheese?
It's called Costco, and I'll take
Nah,
it out of
don't
the
even bring me-
container
don't-
and put it in and be like, hey, I made
Take
this.
that bullshit somewhere else. If you're not doing it for real, don't even want to hear
Okay,
about it.
we have to all bring mac and cheese now. This is too much. We got to do
Right.
it. You
We
can bring
can-
Costco. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot wrong with that.
I could do a
I'm not
Kraft mac
judging
and
you.
cheese. Heck, I can even go one above that and go get
Velveeta?
Walmart brand mac and cheese.
And don't try to take it out of the package and act like you made it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I slaved on this for minutes, everyone.
I have definitely done that. I'm not gonna lie.
You have no idea how hard I work.
That's all like Mrs. Doubtfire to me. You guys know that reference?
Oh, well,
man.
I remember the
Just
movie.
prepackaged everything.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Jen, what's your favorite?
Favorite is actually like it's considered a sweet potato mash, but it's basically a sweet potato pie, crustless pie.
Okay.
So it's like super sweet, and it's got a
With
pecan
the-
crust on it, and like
Marshmallows and all
no
that.
marshmallows. It's
Really?
basically it's just like a sweet potato mash with like a butter and brown sugar and pecan top.
Sounds very good.
It's
Because
so
you could
good.
probably get me, I don't like sweet potatoes really, but I could probably eat those. When you put enough shit with it,
That's basically
it
what
makes
it
it
is.
really good.
That's basically what it is. It's like a pie
Yeah.
more than it's a mash. So
Makes
yeah.
sense.
Anyway,
Mike, what do you got for me?
I like green bean casserole. That's my
thank
staple.
you.
Hey, that is very underrated. But
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
I would
Green
agree
bean
with
And
that.
I'm gonna double up on it, but my green bean casserole is a little bigger or different than the normal one. But I'm right there with you. I do mine with bacon, and then I saute mushrooms in garlic and a little white wine.
Yeah, you go way above what I would make.
That's how I make mine.
Yes. Yeah. And then I have been known to slide it in the smoker for about 15 minutes.
Ooh.
Beans accept smoke very quickly. So you don't want an over smoke, but just slide them in. Same thing with my baked beans. I'll put like burn ends and what in, but I'll slide them in the smoker for like 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to gain any weight, come hang out with me.
Done and done.
If you follow me on social media, you know that food is a big part of what I like to do. So it's a lot of fun. But let's jump into the Enneagram because we're all very excited about this. I'm going to give you a quick definition and meaning of what Enneagram is. I think the three of us guys were not really familiar with it until Jen brought it up and led us down this path of discovery for ourselves, which you've actually had a lot of fun with. But I think we have learned some things about ourselves. Do you agree with that, Gary?
Definitely.
Is it something that was expected for you, or was it something that was eye-opening?
Whenever I do things like this, like I'm always going into it thinking that it's never going to be like me. You know, like whether it's the Myers-Briggs, like whether it's the zodiac sign.
I thought you were going to say killer.
The zodiac killer, yeah. But yeah, like I just never think that it's going to be me. I'm just, always just going into it. And for once, this was partially me, I think. And I think part of it, like, I definitely don't agree with.
I can't wait to dive down that and like figure out. I'm so curious.
Yeah. Well, the Enneagram is and I'm going to read you the definition here off of truity.com, and I'm going to put in the show notes for this at manversusmood.com links to the tests, which one I took. I think I'd like to put in the links to the tests all of us took.
I took off Truity.
Okay, so that we can each, is that where you took it, as Truity?
I've taken so many, I don't remember.
Okay, do you remember what website you took it off of, Gary?
I don't.
Okay, we'll get that, but off of Truity, the definition and meaning of the Enneagram is a system of personality typing that describes patterns in how people interpret the world and manage their emotions. The Enneagram describes 9 personality types and maps each of these types on a 9-pointed diagram that helps to illustrate how the types relate to one another. The name Enneagram comes from the Greek Ennea. Ennea is the Greek word for 9, and gramma means something that's drawn or written. I'm sorry, I completely butchered that.
No.
I don't know how to read, but anyway, so it's a way for us to get a number. But as we've talked even before we started recording, there are subtypes. There are many different ways we have to interpret the results of each type that we have been kind of labeled. Mm-hmm. And for anyone that is going to go take this test, I would like, Jen, if you would be willing, and I know I didn't kind of clear this with you, but you told us that we need to go into the test with an open mind or something like that. What would be the
ideal way?
Ideal way to take the test for anyone that is interested in that?
Yeah. So if you're talking to an Enneagram purist, and there's actually like coaches out there that this is all they do. Yeah. It's like a huge
Go on
thing.
Instagram, Twitter. I've already found a number of Instagram. Actually,
I sent a couple to you. Yeah.
And then I found some more because the algorithm knows that I'm looking at it. So anyway.
But with the Enneagram, if you're talking to a purist, it's that a quiz is not going to give you all the information that you need. It's not going to be able to read you quite correctly, because most of the Enneagram is about how you view the world, how you interact with the world, like what's important to you, and so when you read about the numbers, is the best way to figure out what number you are, is you go through and go, I identify with that, and that's important to me. And so learning about each number can really give you, that was how I did it, but I still took tests because I wanted to kind of see what they were about, because there's a lot of free tests out there, but they'll give you like 3 at a time, and you're like, oh, that's not helpful. Like, and there's a $12 one is which I believe is the Truity one.
I paid 19.
Paid 19?
I think I paid 19.
Okay, there's a $12 one out there. I got to figure out inflation probably. They probably realized how many people were taking the test and just,
jack it up.
Yeah. But those kind of tests are actually a little more accurate, because we talked about this earlier, that they will ask the same question in different ways, and just try to get different answers out of you. And then anyway, so like the Enneagram, but there's a lot of people that mistype themselves. And so sometimes it takes time. Like I know somebody that mistyped themselves for like 2 years.
Really?
She like legit thought she was this number. And then as she started diving into it, and as she started kind of getting a little healthier, as she was like seeing how her lens was in the world, she was like, oh, okay, I can see how I looked like that number, or I interacted with the world like that number, but that's not actually me. Because, and that was actually something I really appreciated about the Enneagram, is it's like, it's not just this is you and that's it. You're always this. It's that each number has a range of health, you know, and it's like, there's like super unhealthy to like mid-range health to like, you're in a really good place and this is what your number can look like. And every person should oscillate within that through their whole life. I mean, you go through a stressful event, you're probably going to come down a few notches and you're going to have old patterns of behavior that you didn't appreciate about yourself. And instead of, and this is what I like about the Enneagram, is instead of coming from a place of judgment of like, like this is bad. It's never, this is bad. It's more of a, okay, we can see it. It's there. And that's okay. This is who I am. And how do I move out of this? How do I progress in a place that feels good to me? And what does that look like? And I don't know. I just really appreciated that, because most of the Enneagram work is not kitties, sunshines, and rainbows. It's pretty intense sometimes.
It really is. And to give everyone an idea, I'm going to give you a quick overview of each one of the numbers so that you have an idea for the listeners. So just a basis. This is in no way, shape, or form going to tell you exactly what you are, and you're not going to be able to outguess the test when you take it. But the number one is the reformer, the rational, idealistic type, principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionistic. Number two, the helper, caring, interpersonal, demonstrative, generous, people-pleasing, and possessive. Number three, the achiever, success-oriented, pragmatic, adaptive, excelling, driven, and image-conscious. The individualist is number four. They're sensitive, withdrawn, they're expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental. Number five, I read it initially as the instigator, but it's actually the investigator. Intense, cerebral type, perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated. Number six is the loyalist, committed, security-oriented. They're engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious. Number seven is the enthusiast, busy, fun-living type, spontaneous, versatile, distractible, and scattered. Number eight is the challenger. They're powerful, dominating, very self-confident, decisive, willful, and confrontational. And finally, number nine, the peacemaker. They're easygoing, self-effacing, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and complacent. So we've all taken the test, like I said, but the one thing that I do find fairly intriguing is the subtypes and how the difference is in what our actual number is to what those corresponding numbers can be. And because if you're a number one, but then you also have number six as a subtype, I mean that's a juxtaposition there.
Yeah.
And how these all kind of fit into our life. And I really wish I could have taken it 10 years ago.
Right.
Or
I said the same thing. I was like, I wish I'd have known about this so much sooner.
And I don't know when this began, but
thousands of years ago.
Really?
Yeah,
well,
thousands. That's the thing that blew my mind.
A long time. Yes, thank you.
Actually, you're right. Yeah. It's been around a really long time.
So do we want to reveal our numbers together, or how do we?
Still doesn't want to tell me.
Nope. That's a guess.
Okay,
so here we go.
Jen, do you want to take the helm for a little bit and
yes,
drive?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Let's go.
All right. I'm not starting with you because I know you're not going to tell me. So I was like pointing at Mike, but Gary. Okay, so Gary and I. Let's preface. I don't know Gary super well. Like we're kind of getting to know each other live, like
on a podcast,
like recording live.
Is it the normal way people do it?
I know. Come on, like it's all documented, and you can go back and listen to it. But I was thinking about it, and based off of some of the things I do know, and the way I've heard you talk about your past and things, you could be a 9, a 6, or a 1. Does that ring?
I mean, possibly.
Yeah.
You're not going to
Maybe.
do. No, Gary, we're friends. He and I, it's
Yeah.
questionable.
Come on, Gary.
Like,
Come on, Gary.
So I'm a number 9, the peacemaker.
Look at you. Look at Jen.
Right.
No,
So
it's-
you're good. It's like you like read through my eyes. Or
I did.
something.
Or she saw your phone.
Yeah, she's seen my.
No, I don't think she can see that far.
Okay, to be fair, I'm a 2. And actually 2s, this is, yeah, so I know what type you are. Will's a 2 as well. And this is actually, each type has a kind of like a superpower is the way to look at it. And 2s are superpowers where you can read people.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty good at that.
Yeah.
That's-
And once you study the Enneagram, you can see it super fast. And you can, and I think I like this part about the Enneagram because I did all the internal work, all the like I don't like this. It felt really uncomfortable. But as I kept with it and I started learning about it, I now feel like I have a lot more empathy for other people and their situation. And it's like, I will never peg you because there's so many different ways that you could be a 9.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're a 9 and I know you. It's like, no. It's like, there's so many other things to it.
Because
So
you're quiet.
Yeah.
I think that there is a time at the DMV where Gary is not the peacemaker.
wait. Okay, so
Undertaker.
That was a number 8.
now I got to tell you what I know about 9s. This is actually the kind of the fun part. So my son's gonna be 12 soon. He's a 9. Like, he is like a 9. My best friend's husband's a 9. I know quite a bit of 9s, and they're all the most compassionate, wonderful people. Like, 9s really are the peacemakers. However, do not test them. You test a 9 and you will get the white hot angry of a volcano.
This is also true.
Yeah.
This is the DMV episode.
Okay, cool. But it's true. It's like with 9s, it's like you can only take it so far, and then you're like, okay, that's enough. You know. And 9s typically have a background of feeling not heard. And it's not that it's not misunderstood. It's that people talk over you a lot, or they don't ask you really how you're doing, or they're not really listening, or you're like, yeah, sounding familiar. And
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I think with 9s, it comes down to understanding where your boundaries are of like, this I will not tolerate, and this is not good for me, and creating an environment that feels safe to you. Like, we kind of joke with my son. His name's Paxton, but his younger sibling, my daughter, called him Podgy. She couldn't say Paxton, so he's Podgy, and he's just a real like homebody. Like, comfort is like everything to him, right? And he makes what we call Podgy nests. And he takes like every blanket he can find and literally makes this like nest where just his head is sticking out, and we're like, what are you that's why we watch his TV. We're like, what are you doing? And anyway, and it's just interesting to see how children manifest the 9-ness, but I would love to learn more about what brought you to know you were a 9.
Definitely. And I think that for me, like when I was a child, like I definitely like made nests and stuff like that.
And a Gary nest.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that I was more trying to be like a Ninja Turtle or something like that. 'Cause I was obsessed with them then.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the shell that Ninja Turtles wear is that security. It's that comfort that like you can't wait. We did talk about you wearing pads, like shoulder pads and things to bed from football, but that's not. Yeah, it's like the armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like it's funny just to sit here and just listen to the qualities that like, you know, kind of are good about it, you know, such as like being like a peacemaker and like easygoing and carefree and stuff. And I just think that like that's, you know, that's just me. Like I want things just to go smoothly. You know, like I want things just to operate. You know, like I've always just been the person that just wants to just blend in. Like I don't like to stand out.
You want to fit.
Exactly. So it's like the person that can just come in and out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And to me, that's, you know, important.
Yeah.
But also like it's kind of funny just to think about the things that are bad, like being stuck in the mud and just like the like, you know, it takes work to be that easygoing and stuff too.
It really does.
Yeah.
A lot of compromise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I just think that too. Also, you know, sometimes, you know, when you can be so easygoing, you know, people can tend to like see how far like they, you know, they can push you until you do explode.
And then the volcano.
And then
The white hot 9
volcanoes
angry.
and lava and everything.
Oh yeah, and especially if a 9 has like a cause or something that's really important to them,
Yeah.
they can be like I heard somebody liken it to the righteous white hot anger. Righteous anger from a 9 is like, watch out, step back, like, you know, like it's like, okay. There have been times where it's come out for my son, and I'm like, oh, I see what's going on. Oh, okay. Like, okay, I'm not concerned about you. It's just like, okay, he's having his volcano moment. Because it's never about, it's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back type of thing. Yeah. But something I wanted to bring up to you, have you looked at the lines of integration and disintegration yet?
Like I've looked at a little bit of it, but I definitely gotta like look into it more, just because it's like, it's so crazy. There's so much to break down and like look into and stuff like that. And it's so like interesting. Like I honestly didn't know like anything about it. Like I can't even say the word. Like I was thinking about it, and I'm like, if we were ever on Squid Games and like the challenge was just to say that, like we would all die. And I had to say that, we would all just not make it, because
Enneagram.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
I think you just did it. I think you did it. I possibly not though, because I don't. About half the time, I don't think I say. Enneagram, Swedish.
That's why I'm here.
I'm just going to say the gram, and hopefully people know that I'm not talking about Instagram.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like we could totally break down each number for like a whole episode, but I choose to be like, okay, Gary's a 9. That's good. Okay, but all right, you. Are you going to tell me if I get it, or are you just going to like make me run around in circles?
No, I'll.
Well, hold on. Before you say that, I want to touch on what you said with me being a 2 and you being a 2 as well, and our superpower being our ability to read people. Mm-hmm. And something that I've discovered as I've kind of gone through the mental health stuff and learning about myself is that this is associated with being a child of an alcoholic. Mm. We have a heightened sense of the people around us because we were forced to constantly pay attention to that person that was an alcoholic and to know how to act based upon their state of mind. Mm-hmm. Or it doesn't have to be an alcoholic or a drug abuser. It could be an abuser, physical or mental. You pick up very easily how those people with their mindset is, and you act accordingly. Yeah. So that's why, I mean, when I sit at a poker table or I talk about masks, that's why I don't like masks. You do like them. I don't, because you take away my superpower. And I've said that to people before you even said that.
Yeah.
That when I can't read somebody, I mean, because I can know within 5 seconds how our interaction is going to be, a lot of things just by hearing a couple of sentences out of your mouth.
You may not even need to hear them speak. Like, honestly, a lot of you can walk in a room and you can see how they're interacting with their environment.
That's why I've connected so quickly with you, because I feel you. Yeah. I know where you are mentally, that smile, all of those things. I'm constantly calculating. Yeah.
And it's exhausting being a 2 in your head, like, honestly. And I didn't even recognize like constantly
go.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah. Well, and judging is not the right word.
No,
I'm assessing a situation so that
you're gauging.
Yeah, and I can balance the weight of the situation. Yeah. And so that I know if I need to add more or less.
Yeah.
Listen to this motherfucker over here. Shit-eating grin on his face.
I'm just thinking, so what you're saying is you're a people-reading Rain Man.
Well, no, I'm not a Rain Man, but I am a people reader.
What is it, the realist? The guy who like reads the facial expressions?
Mentalist.
That
was a good show.
That was a good show. That's a legit thing. Like with 2s, it's exhausting being a 2 because you don't even know you're doing it. Mm-hmm. Like it's like an instinctual thing. Like, and the major point of growth for 2s is learning where your boundaries lie.
I just learned about boundaries this year. No,
yeah.
I'm
no,
not
literally,
joking.
People would ask me like, "What boundaries have you placed?" And I'm like, "What's that?"
Like, do you want a gate? Is this like a child gate, or do I need to put cones up? Is this the boundary you're talking about?
And let me tell you, like knowing this stuff and then entering into COVID, like I have great work boundaries. I have great friend boundaries. I've kind of just learned that I feel better when I have some boundaries around things in my life, but ask me to have boundaries around people I love, forget about it. Like it's like I don't even we entered into COVID and I was like, oh my gosh, because both my parents live with me, my husband, and my 2 kids. Like, excuse me, Yeah, it was like the people that I would lay my life down for, like, easily. And we're all going through like massive mental stress, and we're all like, oh my gosh. And I was just like, oh no, okay. And I felt like I was having to learn how to do the boundaries all over again, because I was just starting to be really vocal around, okay, I realize you guys don't know this about me because I've never told you or like made this an important thing, but like I need to not cook 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So my mom does Sundays every other week. She absolutely hates cooking.
Oh.
Hates cooking. But it was like, that's nice. But every week I need to have at least one night where I am literally not even thinking about what everybody else is eating. It sounds silly, but it's like, it's such a mental load, especially because we have so many food needs in my house and like allergies and this and that. And it was like, I will burn myself out just trying to like please people that I love. It's like, ugh.
And that's where you need Mike's Costco macaroni and cheese recipe.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I could put it in a dish for you and say, like, I made it.
But see, the problem is, and jokes aside, we know that is not our best, and we have an issue with that.
Yep.
Because we feel like we're letting the people down we have set an expectation for them.
Yeah.
This is the level that we can achieve or we will achieve, and when we are below that, we will sit there. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what I usually do. This is just, I had to do it because there's a fucking house on fire over there and I was throwing water on it, but I knew you were hungry. So I made sure I whipped something up for you and I got to go save that person. And that's the mentality that we bring to it. So we joke about it, but
it's tough.
Like I said, I have had no boundaries in my life until this year. And I've probably subconsciously done it, but learning that is just one of the
when
most...
you're aware of it. It's different. Like, because you start to notice it, and then you start, like, and if I'm honest, I started learning about the Enneagram with my best friend at the time, and it's interesting. She's an 8, and an 8 is the challenger, and they get this bad rap for being hard and, you know, they're not easygoing, and they're like, but really, if you want to learn how to create great boundaries, befriend an 8, because they have the best boundaries on the planet, and they piss everybody off with their boundaries all day long, and they don't care. They're like, this is who I am, take it or leave it, bye. And
that there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
No, and there's not, especially when it's, you know, it's like a health version thing, you know, like you're trying to be a healthy human being. You're like, you know, and so when you have a healthy 8 in your life, and that's the other wonderful thing about the Enneagram, is you start to realize, like, I can learn a lot from this number. Do I know anybody who's this number? Or, like, you know, I'm not sure. 8s used to scare me when I was younger, because 8s can come across as bullies, and they can come across as, but really what matters most to them is autonomy.
They want to be themselves.
But they're not going to stomp all over your autonomy. They actually want you to have power and autonomy in your life, and they will champion that for you. And it comes across as pretty like bulldozy, like really intense sometimes, but they have the biggest hearts, like the best people. And I've learned so much. Like, I have a ton of women in my life that are Enneagram 8s, which is kind of interesting because very few women are 8s, but I tend to gravitate towards those people because they don't ask anything of me. They don't. They just want to be my friend, but they don't ask anything of me, and that feels like relief to me. And that took me a second to realize what was happening. Like, why do I gravitate towards those people? And it's because they don't want anyone to know they need anything. They won't ask anything of you. But 2s, we have this superpower to read people, and I kid you not, there's been so many times where I've just been like, hey friend, I haven't seen you in like 10 days, but it's just, you know, how you doing? And she'll be like, literally, I don't understand how you knew to call me. Like, that stuff happens all the time. So it's like that
last week to a friend.
Yeah. Like, you just figure it out. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know. There's so much, and each number does have their superpower, but it's also their Achilles heel, which is so interesting. Like, our ability to read people and the ability to keep the peace. I need to figure out what number you are. This is going to drive me crazy.
No, we're going to find out very shortly.
I'm like, but though that superpower can also be your downfall, right? Yeah. Your Achilles heel. Like, you trying to keep the peace, you take it too far, that will incite the white hot anger, and or you'll go super cocoony and just be like, okay, I literally can't.
Yeah, because that and, you know, because I'm like just very mellow and just calm. So it's like in certain relationships like that I've had, people have just been like, oh, like you don't care. But it's not.
No, yeah.
But it's not a matter of like not caring. It's just like, I want to respect other people's boundaries. Like I think the most valuable thing is time. So to me, when I'm spending time with people, like that to me shows that I care. But
oh man,
some people are just like, oh, like you're not pushy enough, and I'm like,
why do I need to be pushy?
Like
there's more than one way to skin a cat.
For real.
I don't have to be an asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
And you teach so many people those things. And that's the thing I love about the Enneagrams. I learned so much from each number to the point where I'm like, I admire those qualities. It's like, I admire each number differently. Now it's funny how when you start to get to know it, you start going, I think this number is not for me, like these kind of people, there's a number. But if you get to know like the good parts of each number, there's a lot to learn from each.
And I think that we also don't want to define anyone by a number negatively, because every single person, aside from somebody that is troublesome, we can learn something from them if we'll keep our ears open, our eyes open, and our mouth shut.
Yeah.
And a lot of us want to do the reverse of that. We want to tell them what they need to feel or act or something like that. Well, we're not. What we're doing is we're trying to put ourselves, project upon them. But if we're truly trying to learn, which we're going to learn from Mike here in just a second, what his number is, but it's so exciting to learn things from people. Like, I'm not kidding you. And I go back to Gary's story at the DMV, but we've laughed about it at my house like 2 or 3 times. We laughed about it at the dinner table, me listening, because...
Wait, which episode is this? Because I've clearly missed this story.
Last week?
I think it was episode
last week?
7, yeah.
Cool, okay. I'm ready.
It's just one of those things where I learned that about Gary because I've had this thought of him being this chill guy that's got this cool vibe, and then he comes but that's why it was so funny to me, because I was doing this and I just look over and I just saw it. It was like, no, it was everything was just on his face, and I just lost my shit. And because I read him, and it was everywhere, and so it just was a lot of fun to me. But let's get down to brass tacks here. It's time to
let's get down to Mike.
Let's get down to Mike. Do we want to guess? Do we want to fashion?
I would
a
love
guess?
for you guys to guess.
Gary, do you want to guess, or
I'm not saying what it is until she guesses, though.
Yeah,
well, I'll go first. Okay, I will say I'm going over here. You're not a 2. I think that you have some number 3 in you. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with 3.
So I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to second that. Even from when I first met Mike, and Mike was training me like at our job we used to work at together.
Oh, I love that you guys have his history.
He was
I can learn.
always trying to like, upsell and sell and make more money and be a good worker and stuff like that. So my guess is number 3.
Okay, here we go. What's Genevieve got to say about it? What number do you think? Because you are the most educated in this and have far more knowledge than any of us.
Especially because I'm a 2. I just want you guys to know I was reading what Enneagram number you were before you knew what it was. So, just saying.
And you had me pinned at a 2.
I think our first conversation, I was like, he's got to be a 2. Yeah, he's got to be.
I think you're going to be wrong.
You think I'm going to be wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that means that we're already wrong. But
okay, I'm gonna give you 3 numbers again, but I'm gonna go from the one I think you are to least, because what I've learned with the Enneagram is that it's super easy to be like a counter type and not look like the number you are. And we know each other, but not like you and Gary know each other. And we just met in June.
Yeah, around our kids' baseball.
Yeah,
kids'
serious?
Baseball. Oh, shit, I thought you guys known each other for a long time.
No, June.
Wow.
Yeah, we really talked kind of at the All-Star party after everything was over.
Yeah.
We have really come together quickly. We are the middle-aged Ninja Turtles.
I love that. That's funny.
We just don't have walkers yet.
Oh, man. Okay, so you're either a 6, a 3, or an 8.
No.
Really?
Okay.
Did she hit the number at all?
No. None of you
No
guys
shit?
did.
Okay, now then
whoa,
what number you are.
Yeah, go.
Mike,
No, I want to hear what number you are.
Mike is an 8.
No.
No, I guess that one.
Well, tell the audience.
Stop. Really?
I'm a number 9.
Really?
Oh, we've got two
Peacemaker.
2s and 2 9s. Okay,
right.
this is like
Fair enough.
this is blowing my mind. Okay.
So now as you were saying that,
Mike has not
So
participated
here-
in this podcast, so it's about your time here.
I don't really understand how to read this, so maybe you can. I'm handing her my phone.
Okay, I wasn't that far off. Come on.
So I'm really high on
Dude,
2, and I'm really high on 6, but 9, it says 9 is my number. And reading through
Okay.
the description, it very much fits me.
I was gonna ask. Okay, I have a question for you. Okay, hold on, let me get there.
We can hear you.
I'm I'm getting all excited. Okay, so this is an interesting thing about the Enneagram is when you go into this is going to segue nicely into what I wanted to talk about was there's lines of stress and growth or integration or disintegration.
Yeah, I don't understand any of that. It's like
Yeah.
Chinese to me.
Well, disintegration is the opposite of integration.
I got that much.
It is kind of what it sounds like. So it's like a 9, like if you look at the Enneagram and where the numbers lie on the Enneagram and you see those lines that are drawing to and from, a 9 in growth looks a lot like a 3 and in stress looks a lot like a 6.
Okay.
And so, for instance, like I'm a 2. 2s, when we're stressed, we look like 8s, which is kind of hilarious because we're super like easygoing. We're not necessarily like avoidant of conflict, but we kind of assess people's needs, and a lot of times the conflict never occurs because we've already like put the needs there, blah, blah, blah. But when you piss off a 2, they turn into a drill sergeant, right? It's like the total opposite, right? And with a 9, when they go to 6, like for instance, this is something that if you go to the EnneagramInstitute.com, they have the coolest breakdowns of each number. So if you are a 9, it would make sense that you still have some like 6 tendencies because, I'm sorry, you can't be an adult and not get stressed. Like you're going to exhibit some of those qualities, right?
And I have a stress-free work environment, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, real estate
Totally.
is always well known
Especially
for being
right now.
stress-free.
yeah.
But this is something I've really appreciated about the Enneagram Institute is they list out the basic fears, desires, and then which wing you belong to. I need to know which wing you are.
I'm a wing 1.
I could see that. Okay. And that actually leans into a lot because the 1 is very
Perfectionist.
perfectionist and 9s and 1s are at odds. So like you're at odds with yourself more often than not.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like beating yourself up all the time. So the basic fear of a 9 is of loss and separation, but the basic desire is to have inner stability and peace of mind. That doesn't necessarily mean that you want that for anybody else.
Right.
It's what you're seeking and what you're looking for. But I think that, and then when you move into the lines of growth and disintegration, so in stress, 9s become anxious and worried like 6s. And in growth, he's over here nodding. And in growth, you become more self-developing and energetic.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
why I said it fits me to a T,
Yeah.
especially if you know my history and my past, kind of what we've talked about on the show in previous episodes. And that's why I asked before we even started is this a product of, are we a product of our environment? And if so, do these fit that? And I'm like, that fits me to a T of how I grew up and everything.
Okay, so that actually brings me to the next thing I want to talk about is I really dislike this phrase, but I'm going to say it because it helps with like the search terms if you're learning about this. But the childhood wound, I prefer the childhood experience, and I will give you a little background on why. I had a beautiful childhood. Like really, honestly, my parents were the ones that had the shit. Like honestly, and they held that
Lucky.
boundary and that line. And like I don't have a lot of relationships with extended family. Like they moved away, like, and they just built this family unit that they had always wished they had.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like kind of the
it's
next.
a generational break.
Exactly. And they were trying to stop that generational trauma from occurring. And, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to learn to view the world a certain way, even if you have a great childhood. And a lot of times when you read through the childhood wound, it's really yucky. You're just like, oh, ugh.
Well, I think a lot of that is because we're forced to reckon with what we dealt with as children
Yes.
that we have left flapping in the wind for 20 or 30 years or
That
whatever.
we
Yeah.
haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so mine says childhood origins.
Oh, I like that
So,
even better. Yeah.
But this is the first paragraph I didn't really agree with because it says many 9s come from large families or environments where one family member demanded all the attention. I'm an only child.
Are you really?
Yeah, I have no.
Okay.
Are you shitting me?
I never would have guessed.
No, I have no. Wow.
Yeah,
that kind of pisses me off that I completely misread you in that way. Because
So, yeah.
typically I would pick up on that very quickly.
Well, you only see me in the pictures in the
That's
house,
true.
right?
I wasn't really looking through the house, but
I
Yeah.
never thought about that. I just thought it could have been your twin.
Well, when
So-
you've been in as many houses as I have, you don't pay attention to anything like
Except
that.
for the doilies.
Right. Yeah,
well, and for
true.
both of you guys, since you're both are 9s, this is a Reddit post that I've just held on to because I love it so much. If you search childhood wound, it's like the second search term, but it talks about what the wound is and kind of the stuff behind it. So brace yourself. This is always not fun.
Do I really have to hold on? I only have one
you and
hand.
I don't, but they do. So type 9s, it's the wound is to the gut, the core of being. These children were overlooked or neglected and felt unimportant or lost. They were ignored, attacked for having needs or expressing themselves, especially anger, and decided to keep a low profile and instead focus on the needs and experiences of others.
Mm-hmm. And so I think, was it type? So I'm a type 2 or type 6 also is the other one. Mm-hmm. Where what's the one that's very giving and that's a 2. So that's like
it's really similar to our wound, actually. Really
what
similar.
makes me what fills me up and kind of keeps me going is that giving and doing things for others.
Well, let me read the 2 and it's real similar. So type 2 children, and it could be the same experience. Like you guys could have been in the same family and just chose to do different things based off of what you're experiencing. So for 2s, these children felt loved only if they were helping or pleasing others. Their personal needs felt selfish. As a result, they closed off their own needs and feelings and tuned into those of others. Love became defined as giving to others, though the love often didn't feel received or reciprocated. Yeah, we're all like, yeah. Mm-hmm,
oh yeah,
100%. You know what's interesting about that is my dad's a 3 and my mom's a 4, and 3s are like achievement. Like my dad is like an unstoppable train of like, I don't even understand. Yeah. Like, I mean, he does the most incredible things. He's done incredible things in his life. And he grew up with the least support, the least of anything.
Was
like,
he proving himself because of that?
He was, yeah. Like he was basically knew that he wanted more and was like, it was constantly proved to him that, the only reward he was going to get is it was something that he did for himself. Mm-hmm. And
sounds like my dad, because he had to try to get his father's love.
Well, listen to theirs. Their wound was to the heart. For 3s, it's these children felt rewarded only for what they did and how well they did it. Their feelings were discounted and ignored. Only their performance and what was expected of them mattered. This harmed their ability to love themselves and others. Admiration replaced real love. And that was because my dad didn't have that. And so the only admiration he got was through achievement. He played college baseball. He was the sports editor of the newspaper in high school. I literally, and he moved out, slept in his car from 15. So from the end of sophomore year through senior year, couch hopped and slept in his car. Wow. And he got a full ride scholarship to college. Excuse me? Like, what?
That's a 1 in a million type thing.
Mm-hmm. And he's just
amazing.
Insanely driven, right? So my dad was gone a lot growing up. Because he was volunteering with my church. He had his own business for 13 years. And when that was done, that's a whole other story. When that was done, he was busy trying to pivot his career and keep that achievement. And like, I just didn't see him a lot, but it didn't hit for me because I knew he loved me. But not having him physically there made it difficult for me to gauge because I couldn't read him. He wasn't there all the time. Right. But I didn't feel abandoned, but, 4s, my mom's a 4 and she's the next oldest sibling to her is 14 years older than her. She basically grew up an only child,
Just like me.
And the older siblings, my grandparents were constantly working with them, dealing with them and covering up their mistakes. And like, I mean, it's like a whole thing. And so my mom was left to her own devices. She just felt completely abandoned. And when I was growing up, my mom went through, honestly these days, she went through probably 2 major medical malpractices. Like her medical providers were just
terrible.
man, I can't even begin to explain. And so she was dealing a lot with her health, like her physical health, trying to get herself right, and it affected her mental health, and she just wasn't available. And so I was constantly trying to like feel loved. I was constantly reaching for that. Like I was constantly like, what can I do to like be loved? And what felt like love was, honestly, it was their feelings, not mine.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that with each number, so much of it goes down to their feelings didn't feel heard. But it's how they interpreted it is what makes them that number. Because it's these situations, like if you're an 8, man, if you guys read through the 8 and you're an 8, you will know. Like every person I know that's an 8 is like, there's no way I'm any other number. I'm an 8. Like I'm an 8.
And that's funny because my 8 was the least.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Did you know that most 9 men I know are married to 8 women? I know.
Like literally 8 women, or
no, Enneagram 8s.
Wow.
No, these really strong, like very confident, driven women. Like it's, I don't understand it, but you know, the whole opposites attract situation. That's like a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Like my husband's a 5, could not be more opposite from a 2. Like could not be more opposite.
How do you think this, and I don't know if anyone kind of prescribes to astrology stuff, and I'm not really big into that, but I do find it interesting to read, you know, like I'm a Leo, and there are absolutely aspects of that I completely identify with. But against this is real world, and we can actually apply our experiences and what we know as ourselves, whereas that is a big generalization.
Yeah.
Have you looked at that at all, and how? I don't know if you have any interest in that at all, but like a Leo is usually kind of the center of attention, kind of boisterous, that kind of thing, and that is, especially when I was younger, that was me, because we like attention. But then there's this flip side of me that we like attention, but we don't want to ask for it. It's really weird. But it's so I just wanted to see if you had any experience with that, or what your thoughts on that was.
Yeah, actually with the Enneagram, which has been honestly probably the best part, was taking pieces of everything and like likening it, like how does this apply to me as a whatever number you are. There's a couple things that have kind of helped me round out like who I am, and has made me go, oh yeah, that's actually true. And to be honest, for 9s and 2s, the best thing that we can do is get to know ourselves better. And that might be why you guys were like, oh, interesting, I should check this out. Like, because if you can know yourself, and there's all sorts of different facets. So like, for instance, have you guys heard of the love languages?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know
How the 5 love languages, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And what's interesting about that is like, you could be like, you and I probably have very different love languages, and we're 2s, and you guys probably have very different love language because you're 9s, right? He's like, yeah.
Physical touch and words of affirmation are my top 2.
Mine is, I want to say it's time and physical touch.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. What about you?
I have no idea what they are.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I'm looking at them right now.
So I was in like deep denial over my love language numbers, or the categories, for probably 5 years of knowing what they were, because I had been wronged too many times by my love language, and had decided that I was tired of being deceived. I was tired. So nope, that is not who I am. Like I was in such deep denial about it. But I am words of affirmation and gifts. And I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, you're so lucky that gifts is part of it, because gifts could be anything as long as it's got intention behind it. It could be a physical gift, it could be a service, it could be words, it could be it's like the rainbow language, because it can be anything with intention behind it.
So the love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, gifts, and physical touch.
And physical touch is not sex, let's be real. Like it's not.
No, it's like a hug. Or,
it's affection in a physical form. And my husband's quality time and physical touch. So I mean, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand. I mean, there was a point, we've been married 16 years. There's a point with the 6-7 year mark where it was like super rocky. And
it's funny how most relationships go through that
7-year itch.
I was just going to say, it's a real thing. There's something to it. But it forced us to kind of dig deep on how we interact with each other, how we speak to each other, how we love each other and things like that. And I'm grateful to have known that, and then got into the Enneagram. But there's one more that is super easy. You guys will figure it out. It's Gretchen Rubin's, let's see, what are they called? It's how you're motivated. So Gretchen Rubin,
like food or
no, it's
Mike has always
I
got.
know,
Mike is
I know
ready
where
for
Will is.
Thanksgiving.
I know it's
Talk
like
about food.
them Swedish meatballs. I'm gonna get down.
Swedish.
not macaroni and cheese. No, it's called the 4 tendencies. And the thing that I love about this is it's how are you motivated? So like we could have completely different tendencies and love languages, and you guys could have completely, and that's the facet of a human being. You know, we're not one number, this vein. You and I relate on a lot of things because we're 2, and you guys can relate on things because you're 9s, but that doesn't mean you guys are even close to the same person, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Right?
I mean, we look in the mirror and we see each other. So
We're basically twins. We're like
Yeah.
Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
he's
I
just
wish
the
you
really
guys-
tan one, and
I was
I've
like,
got all the
I was like, I
freaking
wish
white
you guys
people.
could see the visual representation of what they're saying.
Yeah.
Twinsies.
But the thing that I love about the 4 tendencies is that it goes deep into how do we get started? How do we get going? And actually, Will and Gary, you guys would really appreciate the tendencies.
I'm Mike.
Oh, I called you Will, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Mike.
Thanks a lot. I've got one hand.
I have 2.
So,
Don't
you
call
guys are
my
all very
twin-
different, okay?
Right.
So if you go to quiz.gretchenrubin.com, it's a pretty quick quiz, and it's there's the obliger, there's the rebel, there's the questioner, and there is I forget what that one's called, but the 4th one is like they follow all the rules. Upholder. That's what that one
Oh,
is.
that'd be me.
And with your one wing, I believe that 100%. But like I'm an obliger, and honestly, this is part of the reason why I love podcasting with a co-host. Was I would never do a solo podcast well, but give me a co-host and people to show up for, I'll be there every time.
Oh yeah.
Right?
No, I
Like-
definitely feel that.
Because
I'm
I'm
gonna take the quiz real quick.
Yeah, take it
while
real quick.
You guys are talking.
You gonna make me guess again?
I will.
You're gonna make me guess again.
So I'll say, based on the love languages, that words of affirmation are definitely probably my love language, because the other ones don't really interest me that much. Acts of service, but I would rather give the acts of service. I don't physical touch. Nah.
What's
Receiving
last, do you
gifts.
think?
What's that
What's last, you think?
for
Like,
me?
Yeah.
Probably receiving gifts.
Yeah. I hate receiving
Yeah.
gifts.
Same
You're
here.
such a 9.
Same here. I like giving
man.
them. I don't
Yeah.
like receiving
Yeah,
them.
I
So like
hate
Christmas
it.
time, when people give, I get a gift. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, thanks. I don't know how to I'm really excited about this,
Yeah.
but I love giving them. Like, oh, open your gift. I want to see what you get. You know,
man.
but I already know what you got.
Yeah.
You struggle to accept compliments.
Yes, absolutely,
That
100%.
that is. What about you?
Yes, definitely.
Gary,
sure.
you are an
Jen?
attractive man.
I love your tattoo.
I'm so proud of you guys. Oh my gosh.
Your headband looks weird.
Okay, for those of you guys that can't see me right now, you're probably gonna go see the Enneagram. I
So-
warned them. I
okay.
said I got like a hair curling thing going on.
Is your
Don't
hair
be scared.
weaved in with whatever's on your head?
Yeah, this is a rope
I've
tie.
already put a picture on Instagram, just so you know.
You did. You already put it up.
It's
No.
on our story.
Nice.
No, it's kind of braided, and I don't know how to explain it. And my hair will be curled when it's done. That's why I do it, because it's no heat.
Ooh, that kind of looks cute. Oh,
Wow. Now
See,
you
now it's undone.
Now
And they're like,
you
now I
like
get
Princess
it.
Leia.
Yeah.
what? That's
it.
Wait,
Is that
what
is that a robe thing?
It's
Yeah.
a rope tie.
But what are you doing? What is
I'm-
the point?
Oh, I'm curling my hair. Like when I take it
That's
out, my
how you-
hair will be curled, like legitimately curled.
Yeah. Who needs a curling iron? You just got a robe sash.
I can actually sleep with this on my head, though. I've done other things where they're like, no
So
heat,
I
you
want to
sleep
see
on
what
it.
this looks like, though.
It's
When
I
you
actually
pull
might be
the
able to-
thing. No, I mean,
I'll have to take a picture of it because I have to
Yes.
sleep on it. But it's
This seems like a lot of work for having
No.
curly fucking hair.
No, are you kidding me? This is like 10 times easier than actually curling my hair. I have really thick hair. If I curl, listen, like, no. It
Really?
takes such a long time to curl
How
my
long
hair.
does it take to put that thing in your
Less
head?
than 5 minutes.
Really?
Prove it.
Well, we're gonna do this
Yeah,
live while
no,
we're recording this.
No, we don't need to challenge ourselves with with the hair thing right now.
It's the macaroni challenge, not
Yeah.
the
Macaroni
challenge.
Oh man, but I think for me, like, were you asking what was my my least love language? Is that what that was, or what were you asking?
Now
me?
I've completely forgotten.
I know my hair is
because
so
the
distracting.
hair thing.
Sorry. But
No, I was saying no based on your love languages because
Oh.
if we're both twos.
yeah.
What one do you find to be your love language, or did you already say that?
Yeah, words of affirmation and gifts are really mine, and honestly, the last is quality time. Like, I could totally do a long distance relationship, but
Really?
yeah, like I could because of words and gifts. Like those, I register that's important to me, and it's like it would suck. Don't get me wrong. Like it would absolutely be awful, but it wouldn't disintegrate my relationship with someone because there would be other ways to speak my love language. Now, my husband's quality time and physical touch, he could never do a long distance ever. Like it would, yeah. So it's one of those, so my last is quality time, and then acts of service is probably pretty close to that. Cause like for me, acts of service is kind of just living.
Yeah. I think I agree with that because but there's a lot of different ways that can be measured, whether it's in a relationship or a coworker, because if it's a coworker, you could be spending 8 hours a day with that person.
For real.
Which is more than with your significant other.
Yeah.
So that is, you've got to learn to communicate with that
Yes.
person and how that, relates to.
And when you do the Enneagram, the 4 tendencies and the love language together, and if you can understand those things about somebody, there's so much more room for permission to just be who you are. Like my mom is a 4. 4s and 8s get really bad raps in the Enneagram because they can get really misunderstood. 4s are they can get really stuck in their emotions. They can get kind of lost. That's a better way to put it. They get really lost in the depths of sadness and the white hot anger, and they can just get really stuck there. But their superpower is that they're not afraid to look at it.
They're not afraid of what they could find out.
Well, they're not afraid to be angry. They're not afraid to be sad. And actually for 2s, you and I, that is a huge point of growth. Guess where we go when we grow? 4. So my mom's a 4. I have learned so much from my mother. She also drives me insane. I love her. She lives with me. I love her. But she can be a really difficult person to get to know because she gets so stuck in her emotions. But she's taught me so much.
Okay, I finished the quiz.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Why do you have to you interrupted?
So what? That's what I'm.
Wow.
I'm a
As a 2,
9,
I can tell you I don't mind. It's fine. Are you an upholder?
No, I'm an obliger.
Really?
Oh, that's so interesting. But you thought you were.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's an obliger?
Obligers meet outer expectations but struggle to meet inner expectations. They're motivated by external accountability. They wake up and think, "What must I do today?"
So it's a grid. It's like a square, and each one lives in each spot, right? And it's
But that's the people pleaser in me.
right, exactly. Yeah, that can be a huge part of it, is being an obliger. But there's a power in it too. Is like if you realize. So this is the kind of person, like an obliger will do fantastic with a personal trainer
No.
or a group class or someone to show up for. Maybe a gym buddy.
Yes, if I know that somebody else is going to be there, then I will show up because I
that's
have
more what
to
I
be
meant.
accountable to them.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to go to the gym by myself, there's no way I'm going to go.
Yeah, okay.
The hardest part is getting there.
So the funniest thing I've ever heard an obliger do to make themselves go to the gym is because they both were like totally different workouts, but they had the right schedule, so they would go together. They would switch each other's shoes. And so
What?
yeah, so like when they would go home, they like person A would give person B their shoes and vice versa, because then if person A didn't show up, B wouldn't have their shoes.
What a great idea!
Yeah, like honestly, so there's like some power behind being an
My mind
obliger.
is blown right now because at first I was like, "What is just?"
Well, at least it's shoes and not something else.
Yeah.
So, can you give us a quick rundown of what the other types are?
It doesn't show me.
Here, I'll break it down because I know this
Yeah,
really
let's
well.
because I'd like Gary and me to
And I'm
get.
You
not
guys
paying-
might know
and I'm
just
not paying
hearing-
$129 to figure that out.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
it's like a whole thing.
Put it on the
So-
corporate
Oh,
card.
here it is. It's right here.
Yeah. Okay. So like the obliger is, they don't do inner, but they do outer expectations. An upholder is both. They will follow all the rules. So they're the person that walks into a public pool, and they read the rules on the wall first.
There are people like that
Oh yeah.
in the world.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah, because
real
they want to
people?
follow the rules.
They don't pull the tag off the mattress. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and
Because they do
read
fear
it.
they will go to jail.
They're the people that are like the rule followers. You have the questioners who do inner expectations but not outward expectations. So like if you can speak to them and help them understand their inner expectation of doing something, they will do it. But if you're like, hey, I need you to do this, they'll be like, why?
Because they want to know
Yeah.
the reason behind it.
Yeah, they
it
want,
had
and they'll
better be
ask a ton of questions.
Oh, that's Hunter.
That's my son. Yeah,
I
me too.
think that might be me.
It's crazy.
I'm not sure because I want to.
Now the rebel is they don't do either. The rebel wants to rebel against outward and inward expectations.
And just do it their way that they invent.
And they can never get anything done. They're constantly frustrated with themselves. And there is a workarounds to it that I've learned. But like my mom is an Enneagram 4 rebel. Trying to get that woman to do anything is like
So
pushing something uphill in sand.
what do you think it is that gets her motivated? I mean, if you had to guess, and maybe you don't want to do that right here.
No. She and I have talked at length about all of this stuff because she's kind of been part of my learning and growth and things like that. And she's really learned that she's learned more from how to motivate herself through the Enneagram than she did through. I mean, it was more of like when she learned she was a rebel, she was like, yeah. She was like, I know, like, thank you. And then when she learned about being an Enneagram 4, she started to go, okay, yeah. Because like when you start learning about places of growth and disintegration, then you can learn how to motivate yourself, how to get going somewhere. And for 4s, they do best when they act like 1s. Organized. Like, for instance, when I got engaged, my mom showed up with a binder.
Oh, really?
Like she was like, let's go. I mean, she was like, let's put stuff in the I mean, when she's like achieving and when she's happy and she's in flow, she is the most organized person I know. And so for her being a rebel, it's not necessarily about external, it's more about identity. Like she identified, I'm a mother, which is funny because she did not want kids for like 8 years. But as soon as that became part of her identity, that was her motivation. So you can't tell her she's the most talented artist. Like, you guys, for real, she oil, pastel, watercolor. She's insane. Anything she puts her mind to.
I can do finger paints.
But
I can put my hand in my mouth.
Which one?
Oh,
wow, you can.
Wow, that's impressive.
That was
You
impressive.
should have seen that.
I was like,
We need some video.
That wasn't his big hand either.
Yeah, that'll be on our Patreon. Watch Will do circus tricks with his hand.
$1 a piece.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was learning about her Enneagram type with the acceptance, because she didn't want to accept that she was a rebel. And I think that's part of it, is learning the acceptance of like, this is just who you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know it doesn't like feel good to write that down on paper. Like, cause for her, that's how it was all the way around. Cause 4s, like even the description of 4s, I'm like, why did they gotta type it like that? Like, come on. Nobody wants to be a 4. Like, because they're just like, ugh, like it just looks gross. What's funny about 2s, everyone's like, I'm a 2, I'm totally a 2, I'm a helper. And then you start diving into it and you're like, oh shit. Like,
No, you're not.
and then you want to hide. Then you're like, oh God, no. And it's yeah. Anyway, so it's interesting to.
But we judge ourselves, and we're too hard on ourselves. And so, I mean, to be an individualist, somebody like me, I look at that and say, I wish I could be like that more, because I just think that is a good thing. I don't look at it as a negative to be unique. I think that being unique is a very, very valuable thing, because so much of society now wants to homogenize everything. If you don't agree with me, then you're bad. If you don't look like me, you're bad. If you don't eat my mac and cheese, you're bad.
Costco, telling you.
Costco.
Yeah. But so for me, and I think that would be something that would be kind of interesting to dive into, is what would we like to turn ourselves in, because that's what you're talking about here, is diving into these ways to grow each other, I mean, or ourselves, not each other. I'm not going to try to grow Gary, but
he's already pretty tall. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I could feed him, I could make him grow.
Yeah, that's true.
But then you kind of get into the envy thing, and I don't. It's not. That's not what I'm talking about. But finding each little thing in the types that we could add to our own tool belt, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that something that's reasonable to
For
say?
sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, and one thing that we haven't talked about is the subtypes. So the subtypes,
Is that like the wings?
kind of. So when you're talking about the wings, so your wing can only be the number next to your number. So like I'm a 2, I'm either going to be a wing 3 or wing 1. And you're 9, you're going to be 1 or an 8. And believe it or not, you can oscillate. Like when in my younger years, I was definitely a 2-1. I was way more, like my place of growth was learning to not be so uptight about everything. Like I can't control stuff. It just, but as I grew, I became more of a 2 wing 3, and that has been an interesting place to realize that there's nothing wrong with wanting to achieve. There's nothing wrong with wanting driving and going more. But like my dad's a 3, right? He's a 3-2. I'm a 2-3. And where we divide is my dad. It's like he can burn the candles at both ends and never burn out because it's driving him towards his goal.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, can burn out. And it's because my motivation is finding love through the people around me, and my dad's motivation is achievement.
For himself.
Yeah. And whatever he views as achievement. There are some 3s out there that are like, wow, I must be like really bottom rung because I've achieved nothing. And it's like, no, it's whatever you view as achievement. It could be career, it could be spiritual, it could be like the physical representation of what you think achievement is. It could be so many things. It kind of depends on how you grew up, what you were taught to think is achievement. But a lot of 3s play sports, I'll tell you that much.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of 3s play sports. But the subtypes are really interesting because you may, like, if you guys are taking the quiz and you're like, okay, I'm this number, kind of like what you were going through. What was going through? How'd you will again, Mike?
Wow.
I'm just so excited to talk about the Enneagram. They're just calling everybody all the names, like, except for
Frank.
Except for your Gary.
Yeah.
You're Gary. You're always Gary. So.
Fair enough. Thank
You're
you.
the little snail on SpongeBob.
Wow.
Man.
How many
That's
times have
some
you heard
cold
that
ass
one?
I hear
shit,
that
bro.
all the time.
I bet you do.
gosh.
I bet you love it too.
Do you go meow?
No, I don't. Because I don't.
cannot
I've
even
never
see you
seen.
doing
You've
that.
never seen SpongeBob, have you?
No, I've seen
You haven't?
SpongeBob.
I have
No,
no
Go home and watch it
definitely.
tonight.
No, I've definitely seen it, but meow, no, definitely not.
Meow, nah.
I'm
Gary,
just,
Gary
Meow,
does
nah.
not seem like a meow tech guy.
I don't like cats either. I'm not a big
Me
fan
neither.
Of
They're
cats.
terrible animals.
Yeah.
They're terrible because they are very
about, Meow?
selfish. What?
What are you talking about, meow?
Yeah.
He thought you said me. He's like, what?
No, like, so looking at this little, I don't know, color.
Rorschach
Yeah, your
test.
test. Yeah.
Yeah, so, 9, 2, and 6 are all, they look like they're all the same size.
They're really, yeah, they
But then
can
my
be.
3 and 4 are medium. My 7 is And then my 1, 5, and 8 are like nothing.
It's mostly just down to core motivation and how you answer the test.
Okay.
The test stuff.
Because I looked at that and I'm like,
You're like,
I
that
have
makes no
idea what I
sense.
am.
Part of the reason why I'm like, don't take a test, like get to know the numbers and decide what number you are, is stuff like that. That's kind of confusing. It's hard to understand
Very confusing.
because it also matters what subtype you are. I will drive this till the cows come home because like subtyping can really confuse you on what number you are. So there's 3 subtypes. So every number has a subtype. So where each number has a wing, it's the next door neighbor number is what, and you can oscillate based on what's going on in your life and things. But the subtypes is kind of instinctual. It's just kind of the knee-jerk reaction, and I haven't dove enough into the subtypes to understand. It's kind of more of an evolution thing of your life, like, whereas you guys are both 9s, I bet you your subtypes are different, and I bet you our subtypes are different.
So
I don't know, maybe our
how do you-
subtypes are the
how do you
same.
figure out what your subtype is?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, and you might be able to decide based off of this. So there's self-preservation, which is responding to perceived threats and needs. Oh,
Like
yeah,
physical or mental?
yeah, mental,
or-
physical, all of it. So self-preservation. Then there's social, which is the instinctual basic. The basic instinct is to create social structures within communities. And then the one-to-one is the primary relationship or coupling. So it's very, yeah. So I have a friend who's an Enneagram 2-1, and she is a 1-to-1, and she will learn everything about you, and she will she's like the best interviewer I've ever met. She just will dive so deep in because it matters to her to create that deep friendship or that deep relationship, and that's 1-to-1.
Is it through spending time with you, or is it trying to figure you out through questioning, or what's the route that she goes to figure you out?
Well, for her and I, it's through questions, but I think it just depends on the type of relationship with the other person. Like, if you guys ever known somebody who's just a really intense individual, it's probably because they're one-on-one subtype. Like, they just come across as really, like, focused. Like, they will focus really heavily on this one thing, and they will just, like...
Probably engineers as well.
Yeah. And every number can have these, but there is one subtype within each number that's counter. It's a counter subtype to your number. So like self-preservation 2 is a counter type. So somebody who is a self-preservation 2 will not look or act like a 2 outwardly. Like, we would never guess that some person is a self-preservation 2.
So I'm a self-preservation.
Yeah, because and 2s tend to want to, like, they're always thinking about everyone else and they want to, like, help everyone. But a self-preservation 2 is going to be at odds with themselves. They're going to be like, whoa, okay, like, what are my resources here? Like, what can I do to protect myself? And then they'll beat themselves up later for not being more like a 2, because they will feel that inner, like, turmoil of, like, I should have. They will should all over themselves all the time. Actually, most counter subtypes will do that. So, like, my husband is a 5, which is very, like, data driven. They tend to be kind of the intellectual types, very, like, private types, but he's a social 5. You would never guess that he's a 5. In fact, even he was like, there's no way I'm a 5, because you read the list and it's totally not him. But when you dive into the childhood wound, you dive into the inner motivations and basic fear, basic desire, it's like, oh yeah, like totally him. But that's because he's a social 2. So he creates social structures within communities instead of a self-preservation 5 is, like, pretty typical for a 5. Does that make sense? So it's like you kind of get to decide what subtype you are. Nobody gets to tell you what's in there. I don't think there's any tests for subtyping. So you guys kind of get to decide what feels right to you.
Based on what you said.
Okay, what is it?
Self-preservation 9.
That would make sense with, like, the one wing.
I am high on the 2. And so, as you were just saying that, I am at odds with...
Yeah, a 9 wing 1 is at odds with themselves a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that, Gary?
What is your wing? Are you 1 or 8?
I feel like... That's a good question.
To remind everyone, number 1 being the rational, idealistic type, and the number 8 being the powerful, dominating type.
So what's interesting is 9, specifically, that number is sandwiched by really dominating numbers, and it feels counter-typing. You're just like, wait.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not a challenger. I'm not a perfectionist. However, when you take the chemistry of a 9 with an 8, those people are like the underdog champion. Like, they will champion every underdog. A 9-8. A 9-1 has a tendency to go inward and beat themselves up more than they worry about other people's stuff.
Yeah. It's tough because I feel like I'm very hard and difficult, like, on myself. Like, the things that I do, you know, like, I would never expect, like, somebody else to go out and, you know, work like 100 hours a week, or
but you expect it of yourself.
Yeah. But like when I don't do that, like, I feel like I'm being lazy, like, you know, like, in a sense. So like, I definitely, like, identify with that, and, like, I definitely identify with 8 too, because I feel like my environment is just everything. Like, when I go home, like, I just have to have that, like, calmness, you know, because I feel like
you can be both.
Yeah.
It's more of, like, where season of life you're in.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely was a 2-1 when I was younger, and I've been 2-3 and now I'm feeling myself oscillate between the 2 a little bit more. I think COVID definitely did that to me, but I think that it's okay to allow yourself the permission to be maybe day to day even.
But yeah, like, it's funny that you say that too, because I feel like as I was younger, like, I definitely identified more, like, with a peacemaker, you know, as far as, you know, just, you know, like, if somebody said something that I didn't like, or if somebody did something that I didn't like, you know, like, I might let it slide. But now, like, I'm going to speak up and I'm going to say, you know, what I think.
Oh, you know what?
Because I think then, you know, when I was younger, like, if I did say something, it would result in fighting.
Yeah, well,
in the principal's office.
And that's what I was going to say is you've shared with us I guess, how fast you would go to the fighting, and you felt like it was you against the world at times.
Definitely.
And that was the only way that you could, whether it was prove yourself or prove yourself to yourself even. Is that a fair characterization?
Definitely. Like, I definitely agree with that. And I don't know. Like I'm just reading through the list now, about the peacemaker, and I think, like when I first seen that, I was just like, wow, like that's soft, like that's not what I want to be. But I mean, even dating back to my childhood, like my family was split, so like I had to literally like bring like everybody together and like be that like union, so like people could sit at the dinner table and not fight and not go crazy and stuff like that. So
every number has a serious need in society.
Yeah.
I mean, like for real, like 6s and 9s are the glue of this world.
Really?
Oh, for real. Yeah, 6s and 9s are the glue of the world. The 6 is the loyalist.
Thank you. You're welcome.
But the fact that you guys are trying to, and I think it's interesting that you're a 2, you're a 9, you're a 9, like it's really, you said, oh, that's soft. And it's like, no wonder podcasting and talking about this stuff feels good, because you're finally like acknowledging that side of yourself that you kind of wanted to deny because of the quote unquote idealistic term of masculinity, which is a total load of crap. Like,
yeah, like when I seen that, I'm like, I'm not going to admit that.
Yeah.
Next subject, please.
Next subject. Well, I want to bring this up too. As you guys are going through the EnneagramInstitute.com, if you scroll pretty far down, there's levels of health, and it's ironically 1 through 9. So, and there's like unhealthy, average, and healthy. I learned the most about myself. It was like literally seeing a map of my maturity levels. Like
Really?
It's crazy. So, I always like to start in the average levels. I want to read just a few words. So there's 4, 5, and 6 level of like right in the middle of 9 for you guys. So level 4 is like, you're on your way. You're almost in that healthy range, and you're making moves. You're like this most
Power
like
moves.
Yeah, power moves. You're like feeling good. So even at that place, you're going to be fear of conflict. You're going to be accommodating, idealizing others, and going along with their wishes. Like, does that not sound like high school?
And
like,
that's a 4?
that's the level 4 within
Level
the 9. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's like the 9 levels. So 1 being the most healthy, 9 being the most unhealthy. So 4, which is pretty high up there. Like, I mean, that's still like, anyway, but they use philosophies and stock sayings to deflect others, to fall into conventional roles and things like that. And then you go down a notch in level 5 in that average health, and they're active but disengaged, inattentive, don't want to be affected, unresponsive, complacent, kind of sweep things under the rug. 6 is begin to minimize problems to appease others and to have peace at any price. Stubborn, frustrated, angry by their own procrastination. 7, so when you get into the unhealthy levels, they start talking about addiction and things you're drawn to, and like 2s.
So could you be a mixture of those?
You can wildly oscillate. Like, let's say you're triggered by something. You're most likely going to be in the 7, 8, 9 range. And what's nice about acknowledging that is it allows you to kind of have the permission of like, I see where I am and I'm not going to stay here. Because I think a lot of times when we talk about trauma and we talk about our response to trauma, it can feel so absolute. But human beings are just not made to be that way. We're made to change. We're made to grow. We're made to oscillate. We're made to like all the time. And so when you get into the unhealthy ranges, you have things like feeling incapable of facing problems, obstinate, neglectful, and dangerous to others. You want to block out awareness of anything. You're numb, depersonalized. 9 is this is when you get to the level 9 of each number, it's kind of scary sounding, but it's like they finally become severely disoriented and catatonic, abandoning themselves, turning into shattered shells. Multiple personalities are possible. Generally corresponds to schizoid and dependent personality disorders. So I always read those first because
I don't think I've ever gotten to a 9.
Yeah.
And most people, that's
I've
like
been in 7 and 8s.
Well, let's put it this way. Like, I know some really unhealthy people, and I don't think they go past 7.
Really?
Like, you get to 8 and 9, and that's like medicated. Like, you need to see a serious professional. You might need to be like committed. Like,
I'm not 8.
Yeah.
Way to go, Mike. I think you probably were.
But listen to like the healthy. So like you're growing, you're achieving, you're like finding things that make you feel like yourself. You're optimistic, reassuring, supportive. You have a healing and calming influence in harmonizing people and bringing them together. You're deeply receptive. You're trusting of yourself. I love that they said that. You're trusting of yourself. You're at ease with your own life. And at best, 9s become self-possessed, feeling autonomous and fulfilled. They have a great contentment because they are present to themselves. Paradoxically, at one with self, and thus able to form more profound relationships. Like,
I think currently I'm probably at a 4. Before when we were meeting for coffee,
Yeah.
I was probably in that 7 range.
Really?
7, 6, 7.
No shit. See, and what I think is so interesting about that is that we hone this ability to hide that. I had no idea. You had no idea what I was going through.
Talk about toxic masculinity. You guys have been taught your entire lives by society, by media, by everything that all of this stuff is not okay. And it's like, man, no wonder you guys have just been like, all right, I've had enough. Like, I don't feel like myself.
That's what this whole podcast is led out of.
Yeah.
And one thing that I shared with somebody the other day and that I've been kind of thinking about is when you engage with your mental health as we have, and I think you probably have longer than we.
Not much, but yeah, a little bit.
You almost
Genevieve
become
has her master's degree.
Yeah,
in this,
right.
And we are all still in our kindergarten stage.
Yeah,
It's all
hiding.
It's all hiding in my bathrobe
Right, yeah.
around my head.
That's how we know she's the sane one. She's using her bathrobe and her.
And let's be clear, I
head,
look
right?
the least sane out of all 4 of us right now. So
You didn't have your
agree with
hand in
that.
your mouth. Anyway, it kind of is akin to being a born again Christian in that you are so excited to spread the word and you want to help people so badly, and they're not quite ready for it yet. And
it's their own journey. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, I have gotten feedback where people aren't quite ready to make that step in a public sense like we are. And we're being very forward about it. But I don't want to temper the way that I discuss this with people, but I also understand their hesitancy
Yeah.
when I come in really hot, like, yeah, I'm all fucked up in the head and I'm ready to get after it. I'm going to crush it. And they're like, what? What are you doing? You're just way too much
that's
for me
so
right
scary.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought about that a couple of weeks ago, like, okay, pump the brakes a little bit. You don't need to come in quite so hot with everyone telling them how, the podcast and stuff, that's cool. That's exciting, and people have known I've done that. But about engaging my own mental health, is that something that you guys have, as you have started down a journey or a path that you weren't familiar with even a year ago? Is it something that you've thought
a year
about?
ago, I wouldn't have done this.
No, I understand. But when you communicate with other people about your journey, have you seen them kind of either be accepting or not?
I think depending on how
You
much of
present
a relationship we have with
okay.
each other. So, like my best friend Jeff, I can talk to him about anything. And there's been times where I've struggled and I've been like at that point or at my breaking point where I'm like, dude, I don't even know if I want to be here anymore. But I can call him and tell him that. Whereas I wouldn't be able to tell you that because I don't want to feel judged and I don't know you that well,
Yeah, for real.
So, but now going through this, I could talk to pretty much anybody about where I'm at now. But I do see where people are like, I love listening to the podcast. I love what you guys are doing, but I'm not at that spot yet.
What about you, Gary?
I don't know. Like, I think it's just funny and interesting just to sit here and like listen to your guys' stories. Because I mean, for me, like, I have friends on the spectrum that like they're like, I'm never gonna admit, I'll never admit anything's wrong with me. I'll never go to a counselor. I'll never tell anybody about it. I'll just hold it in, and I'm just gonna keep it there too. And I just have friends too that, since they've heard our stories and stuff like that, they've began going to counseling and stuff. And
Really?
Yeah, definitely. And like,
That's cool.
for me, like, I just think that, I have, people that have just told me that, they're shocked, some of the things, that we've talked about on this. And I just think that, like, I'm not here, to necessarily shock people, but I just think it's important just to like share your story and just to talk about things. Cause I mean, you never know, what, somebody else is going through. And it's just interesting. Cause it's like, I've known Mike now, for quite some time, and, we haven't been best friends or anything, but, when I did see him like on a daily basis, I would never think, that that he was the only child, you know, because he's very outgoing, he's very talkative and stuff like that. You know, like I would never think that he has, you know, things going on with him, you know, and I would definitely never think, you know, we'd be doing a podcast later and talking about it and stuff like that. But it's
with the lady with a robe in her head.
Yeah. But it's just like so cool because it's like it's his mental health, you know, it's men's, you know, mental health month now, and it's like like these are the things we need to be doing. Like we need to be talking about what hurts us and what and what affects us and what impacts us and stuff like that. Because it's like, you know, if me and Mike, you know, we would have had this talk, you know, years ago, you know, who knows? Mm-hmm. You know, things, you know, could have been different. You know, we could have, you know, went down this path earlier, you know, in life. But
I don't know that is. I don't know that we're ready though.
Yeah,
for what the level of like, for lack of a better word, sharing that we have engaged just in. This is the 8th podcast, and I think the 4th with you, or or 3rd or 4th, and 2 with you. Yeah. I think we've reached a level that is just noteworthy. I mean, it's very odd, and it's something that is exceptional. I think that exceptional is the best way to describe that. But when you say shock, one thing what I think of is that people are shocked that people go through the same things, but no one shares it.
No,
we won't tell them that, holy shit, I went through this, that, or the other. And then when it's like this moment of clarity, like, oh my goodness, that they're dealing with it and I can deal with it as well. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I will get through, whatever it might be. Yeah. So it's very exciting, and it's something that is going to power this podcast, hopefully for eternity, because
I don't think we'll ever run out of
no,
things to talk
we won't
about,
because I mean, like you said, we could go through each one of the numbers and just the numbers. And fill up a number of podcasts, and I think this is a good place to stop, because we're already at an hour and a half, and it felt like
20 minutes.
We just started. And the one thing that I would like to say to that is that it's a testament to us and our willingness to be open with each other. Mm-hmm. And I just want to give each of you a pat on the back from me, and give myself a pat on the back, because when you're having fun, time flies. Mm-hmm. And when you can have fun with people that are willing to be so vulnerable, we just want to grow that. We want people to be shocked. We want people to be open,
inspired,
and aware that we're all going through it, and that we're trying to, bit by bit, step by step, build something that allows people to feel better and grow themselves, because ultimately that's all we can do. Because once we stop growing, we start dying. Mm-hmm. And I didn't read that, or it's just the kind of the way the way I look at it is, if I'm not trying to better myself, and there's a double-edged sword there, because then you can be unhappy with your growth, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's that we just, each day we can get a little bit better. And so I just want to thank you guys again, and thank the listeners out there for, you know, kind of going on this journey with us, because you're learning with us. You know, we just went through the Enneagram, and
I legitimately understood why you made me wait. Like, when I started to realize, this would be a better conversation being recorded, I was like, okay, fine, we will wait.
I had to tease you and needle you a little bit.
Well, a little? I think it was more than a little.
That was a minuscule amount of teasing on that one.
Yeah, no,
compared
you were
to
gentle,
what it could be.
Oh, it could have been worse, yeah.
Oh, I'm
far
sure.
worse.
I'm sure.
I could have started sending little pictures of, like, the test results.
Oh my gosh, like a puzzle.
I don't think you're that tedious, though, Mike. I really don't.
No.
As we wrap it up.
Final takeaways?
Yeah, final takeaways. Gary, what's your final takeaway? What do you got?
So, I mean, I really just want to stress the fact that it's Men's Mental Health Month. Like, I really want to see more people, you know, just going to therapy. Like, I really want to see more people, you know, just looking themselves in the mirror and stuff like that, and just saying that, you know, I'm fucked in the head. You know, like, I have problems with me. You know, I have issues and stuff like that. And, you know, just because you have that, it doesn't mean you're this horrible being or, something like that. It just means that,
You are a human.
you are a human. We are flesh. We all bleed. We all have issues. Like, just, lean on your brothers and sisters and your family and friends and stuff like that. And
if you don't have that,
yeah, well, you got to go to Costco, I guess, and meet some people and get some macaroni and cheese and go from there.
Go to Costco. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Right. Jen, what do you have for us?
I was listening very intently. I got a little lost in what you were saying, Gary. That's a good thing. I think a takeaway that I'd like to make sure people know is that we are human, and that we are as human beings, we are supposed to be flawed. We are supposed to be. I mean, my mom said this to me when I had kids. She was like, "Look, you're gonna fuck up your kids."
That's good
She's
advice.
like, right? She goes, "Now you get to decide what kind of fucked up you're gonna give them."
Yeah.
Yeah. And really that mattered to me because I went, okay, I'm never going to be perfect. I'm never going to be the perfect mother, but maybe I can be the right mother for this human.
That's beautiful.
To guide them through this life that, they're going to take life however they're going to take it, and they're going to become whoever they're going to become, and maybe I can just be that soft place to land. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
So it's like you got to allow yourself to
That's
be
some
flawed.
heavy shit.
It is.
I mean,
a whole nother podcast.
yeah,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
more than one.
Oh yeah, we could talk about motherhood and fatherhood. Woo.
Oh, man.
I think we
My son
probably
doesn't
should.
want
Well,
that.
we're all
He
parents.
doesn't want that. He's like, please don't. Oh.
Mike,
My biggest takeaway is kind of when you were talking before, Gary, is when you said you have friends that don't, they're like, oh, I don't have a problem. I don't, just very much in denial. Mm-hmm. I would really challenge them. So if you have someone in your life, listener wise, if they say that to you or you feel that way yourself, I challenge you to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you're kind of holding yourself back.
Yeah, let yourself be flawed.
Yeah.
Like there's
It's okay to be you.
Yeah.
And make mistakes and stuff like that. I mean, that's how you learn, is by
yeah,
failing. And
that's the
making mistakes.
only way you're going to grow
Yeah.
is if you're willing to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You've got to start before you can even know that you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a failure if you don't try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
like
come in with some platitudes tonight. We're going to be all
Quotes,
over home goods.
quotes. Oh, guys. Live, laugh, love, people.
Yeah. Like, where'd you get that? Like some podcast. These crazy ass people just said some shit that we had to write down. We painted it, and Chip and
I know.
Joanna got it.
Some guy
Pinterest.
put his hand in his mouth and then said
Yeah.
that.
Macaroni and cheese? I don't know.
Well, thank you guys very much, as always. I really do appreciate and hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving as you listen to this.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving is in the past, but we all have much to be thankful for. We enter into a new season of holidays, and it's not about the gifts. It's not about any of that, in my opinion. It's about being thankful. I think that's why Thanksgiving is so fun, because there isn't any commercialism or materialistic. It's just gathering around and being thankful. So I hope everyone had a wonderful Turkey Day, and with that, we go.